My name is Inda Eaton. I live in Springs. I've been here for almost 20 years, and we're sitting in, well, I call it the studio. It's my workspace slash office slash family room. It's kind of like the VFW in our house, this room. It's one of those rooms you can do just about anything. You can clear it out. You can make it a party. You can record a record in here. You can host a wake. You can host any number of things in this room. We call it the studio. So in 2020, we had momentum going from our record Shelter in Place. Can't make that up. That's what the record was called, Shelter in Place. We were chugging along. We had a good couple, 3 months. We were getting ready for the Bay Street show that we did. And you know, my show at the Bay Street was the last show on the East End. It was March 7th at the Bay Street Theater. Yep, March 7th, 2020. It was the last music performance on the East End.
Oh, I thought there was a plan, then there was none. You close that door to where you come from. The earth's not flat, but it feels that way, and I'm driving off today.
When I look at March 7th, which is when we had our last show, it's all fuzzy in that I don't think we really knew. A gentleman we play bass with, Jeff Marshall, he works at the hospital. A couple days before, we were having rehearsals every day, we're having dinners every day. He took me aside and said he had been in meetings at the CDC all week, and this whole thing we were following on the media was really going to be serious. And he told me we may not even have a show, and that people wouldn't come, and that it'll be great to go to the theater to play it, but he would be surprised if anybody even came out for it. And I thought it rang true. I thought that sounded right, but we were going to play the show. And we did, and it was full. It was sold out. And I've heard that that's the last time a lot of people went out en masse inside to a theater show was March 7th, 2020. I came up with Shelter in Place pretty much in this very room, and it was around the 2016 election. And you could feel the energy, and everybody's got their version of that election and why we were in such a, what's the word, funk? And not because of the outcome of the election, because of the vitriol and because of the divide. That's the beginning of the aha moment of, wow, we're not doing so great. Right after that election, my wife and I, we drove across the country, and you could see all the political signs still in the yards. Never have seen that. Usually a week or so after the election, people take down their signs. It was my first look into the country after the election in slow motion, looking out the window. And that's when it came to me. Everybody's just sheltering in place, making sense of what's to come. Everybody wants to know, or they think, oh, the artist must have just written so many songs or painted so many paintings. It was not my experience that the creativity was abundant at first. I mean, I was in shock like everybody else. I was processing a tremendous shock. And you would think that you just start getting out the paints, or you just start getting out the camera or the guitar. And that did not happen. And ironically, like a week after this show that I'm telling you about, Shelter in Place, I literally damn near cut my finger off with a bread knife. So I could not play guitar for 3 months, which at the time seemed, well, devastating and a wonderment. But now I see I was not meant to play the guitar for those 3 months. It's okay. If you ask, is it a creative time? I don't think so. I think it's too close. I don't think you write movies about the war while the war's going on. Everything I was doing had to be canceled. We were going out to Wyoming, we were going out to Arizona, we had things in the book, of course, locally. Everything had to be canceled. And I think a common experience and one that I had was, oh, well, we'll just cancel the next thing. And then it became clear as we were ripping through March, driving through roadblocks to hell, that everything's going to get canceled for the foreseeable future. But I think it took about maybe 2-3 weeks before it was clear that, especially here in New York, like we're not moving. I think other people were impatient with that. You know, I do work out west, especially someplace like Wyoming that's not so populated. I work in the schools, artist in residence programs. I don't think they could understand what the experience was in New York, and then it caught up to everybody. The whole thing with music venues is it runs on a supply chain that you have people on tours, you have people, they play bigger venues, they play smaller venues, it all is a cycle. And so if you're going to leave your house, you're not just going to go play at one venue, you're going to play the next night at this venue, and so forth and so on. So I can't imagine that they did well at all. In fact, it was It was just heartbreaking. In fact, I do know locally that there are places like the Talk House, play a lot at the Talk House. I mean, their jobs were over. And I think at first we all thought, well, it'll be a couple weeks, but that was just ridiculous. And then I think it set in. And yeah, you have GoFundMes and you have fundraisers, but I think that caught everybody too, because we're having fundraisers. Never had to have fundraisers for ourselves. And here are the people that would do the fundraisers, and we can't even congregate on our porches. So that was bizarre. I don't think Maine Beach really had music outside before this summer. And what a great idea that was. Sure, I think there are bars and restaurants that have music outside. We're always working on that. But to have public art in the parks, I know there was a Shakespeare in the park. I know they did Maine Beach music. So to be part of something that was public, open to the public, where you could bring your entire family and be open air, I think that was huge. The truth be told, Andrew, I think anybody would come to these events. I think it could have been a sock puppet show and people would do anything because I think they wanted to go out and see people. So me as an artist, I was humbled. I thought, this is great. I'm sure all these people out here, they're going to be disappointed because they're probably looking for the Elton John tribute tour, and there's just little Inda. And I'm looking around going, well, they're probably going to be disappointed, but there's some entertainment, there's going to be some vibration of the music. I was surprised how many people came. And I think it's because people would do anything to get outside the house and feel some community and some connection. You asked a word. The first word that comes to my mind in this whole thing is freedom. And one of the songs, it's funny because one of the songs on the record, Shelter in Place, which I thought I really knew about, which I'm still learning about, is called Free. And we spent good energy and good money making this beautiful video movie about this song, and it really talks about freedom. I thought I knew what it meant. Then we get shut down, so I think I know what that means. And then I go through my journey, and we go through the raucous summer, and we go through all of our protests, all of our anger, and I think, well, freedom really means we have freedom until my personal liberty is squashed. So freedom is only as big as you are my personal liberty. So I think, aha, freedom. Then recently I'm out and about, I'm on a trip. I see some piece and the person talks about freedom is forgiveness. And I thought, freedom is forgiveness. So it's been this journey about freedom and what we have of it, what we don't have, what we're free to do, what we're not free to do. I think it's kind of that Alice Walker, what is it, the Secret of Possessing Joy, kind of that very deep, it's heavy stuff, that Viktor Frankl freedom. You don't have the freedom to take my joy away. I think about personal freedom, I think about personal liberty. So I think the big word that comes from me from this entire, or to me, the word that comes to me through this entire era, and I don't think we're out of this era, I just think we're in a new part of the era, is the word freedom.
'Cause I'm free to roam, and I'm free to go, to spread my